All right then. So here I am, still swimming upstream, happily, after 30 years online, trying to persuade people that the only way that you can beat negative expectation at these tilted table games is with progressive betting, and better than that, with a progressive betting strategy that you believe in, and which has been demonstrated by you and by others to be valuable, viable, sensible, numerate, and above all profitable. But it is a hard slog because the majority of people who tune in to the likes of Vegas Matt and so on are either gamblers or would-be gamblers who fit into the mold which goes, these are people who, number one, expect to lose, and number two, want to lose. Wanted me to, yes. So that's somebody who I did actually meet was Kenny Rogers, who made such a hit out of The Gambler. I think somebody else recorded it before him, but his version of it kind of made a career for him. Nice guy, terrific amateur photographer, very interesting fellow to talk to, and gambling didn't come into it. Yeah, he was great, and there are other top flight country and western stars who I encountered who were not so nice. But anyway, that's a whole other story. All I wanted to say here was, these guys at BNB Simulation, as you will hear from me in the upcoming presentation, are fantastic, absolutely fantastic. They've been doing it, or he's been doing it. I don't know who they are exactly. I don't know whether it's a guy or a girl or a bunch of guys or a bunch of women or a bunch of men from Mars. I have no idea. But what they do is fantastic. They've been doing it for years, hardly anybody paying attention. And I know exactly how that goes. So all I want to say to you is please give them a chance, have a look at it, use what they have to offer to help you beat this game. Okay, so before I get down to the nitty gritty with this demo, a bit of background information. In front of you, what you're looking at is the work of a guy. I assume it's a guy anyway, who I consider to be one of the unsung heroes of YouTube, or at least the gambling channels on YouTube. He produces 500 random baccarat shoes a couple of times a week. As I say, blocks of 500 randomly created, beautifully presented, very, very carefully and consistently presented online. And he, like me, is basically in the wrong place because the gambling channels on YouTube are not a place where thinking people gather. They're a sort of playground in a way for either wannabe gamblers or recovering gamblers or, well, I don't know what you can say about people who get enormous thrills out of watching other people lose huge amounts of money. What I think a lot of them don't realize is that the Shills, the Vegas Mats, the Bobby Rivases, the Bretskys, the Brandon O'Briens, the Mr. Handpays, the Crazy Cody Burn Moneys, the Dana Whites and so on, can't lose. They're bulletproof because whatever they lose while they're producing content for YouTube, they get back one way or another, either through Google, through the cash cow Moogle, paying them for clicks, ads, etc., etc., or from selling overpriced and under quality merchandise. And everything that they do is perfectly legal. And as far as I'm concerned, and I don't think I'm alone in this, in fact, I know I'm not, it's immoral. Because basically what they're trying to do is to lead people by the nose into playing as stupidly as they do. And the people that they attract to gambling will not be as lucky as them and will not have a golden parachute from Google or from host casinos or whatever. But anyway, this is something I've talked about a lot in the past. And so down to cases here. This is how, I don't know his name, her name, whatever. We have been back and forth a couple of times via email. And I owe the creator of this incredible resource on YouTube a favor, because a long time ago, when I first started using these things, they used dark green to indicate ties, and I found that a little bit kind of frustrating, because not necessarily because of my rheumy old eyes, but I think just because it was a bad idea from a graphic standpoint. Dark green and dark blue can look a lot alike. I suppose it depends on the time of day, how many beers you've had or whatever. But I very gently, politely suggested to the creator of this wonderful service, how about if you were to indicate ties in light green instead of dark green, because then they'd be much easier to spot. And I got a response back very quickly, within 24 hours for sure, saying, yeah, we can do that, but it's going to take a while because we have a backlog, you know. And I thought, boy, that's really great. I mean, you know, with a lot of people creating content for YouTube, it's a basic sort of middle finger kind of attitude. They're out for themselves. But anyway, that's what this guy did. And I'm grateful to him for that. The other point I wanted to make was that Vegas Matt, in common with all the other shills in the world, who basically do as the casinos tell them, is constantly saying, don't ever bet player, only ever bet banker. And so, you know, my response to that, sorry about the pause there. My response to that was to come up with this, with the help of the Google Gemini AI, the image creator, anti-wanker player club, because as I say, it's only shills and people who work for casinos who will tell players when they ask, yeah, you're much better off betting on banker, because banker, you know, usually wins more often than player. And of course, you know, this particular shoe 6 here is an indicator of that: 37 bankers, 35 players. What is, of course, pathetic about it is that betting the way that he does, Vegas Matt, and all the other shills, barkers, touts, frontmen, house pets, whatever you want to call them, they bet flat or they bet randomly, they bet stupidly. That's the very kindest way you could describe it. And for Vegas Matt, 2 more banker wins than player wins in the course of a whole shoe session, and he never does a whole shoe session because he runs out of money. But you know, a +2 situation would be no use to him whatsoever. But anyway, I'm telling you that if you follow what Vegas Matt does and only bet on banker, then you're as daft as he is. I mean, it's as simple as that. So anyway, going up to the main page here, what this is all about is really very simple. From time to time, somebody will say that I choose my content, my sources. Let's put it that way. I was about to say output, and then I was thinking, no, that's not the word I want. I'm looking for a different one. But anyway, that I choose my sources very carefully so that they'll support my strategy. It's absolute bullshit. It's the sort of thing that people have been saying to me for 30 odd years since I first went online, because they find it very difficult to accept a challenge to what is thought to be the conventional wisdom, which is that if there's negative expectation, then any amount bet against the negative expectation must have a negative outcome. What they don't understand, of course, is the force behind the casino bullshit machine, helped by the likes of Vegas Matt and others, which is basically dedicated to reinforcing the idea that these table games, particularly, I'm only interested really in baccarat and blackjack, that these table games cannot be beaten in the long run, and anybody who says otherwise is either mad or a charlatan, you know. And that is the conventional wisdom. It is absolute nonsense. And I'm going to show you how. Now, what I've done here is that to demonstrate just how random the outcomes are that I use for the basis of all of my demos and presentations, I took the latest post from Random 500 Shoes, or BNB Simulator, number 517, which was posted on or around the 5th of April. Today is the 7th of April. And I took the first 6 shoes. I wanted to do only 5, but Banker turned out to be way behind at the end of the 5th shoe. And one of the very important rules about pattern betting is that you never walk away a loser. And by that, I'll show you what I mean here. This one player was 250 out of pocket, and the next bet was due to be 400. So I simply rolled that forward to the next shoe, and here we got our turnaround. There was no rollover or no dangling nasty negative for the bank on shoe 1, so that was fine. Next shoe, there was 225 owing on player, so the next bet should have been, oh, and this I've got to tell you, this is wrong, all right? So I'm going to fix this. Yeah, I always make a big fuss about how I do make mistakes, and I always find them, and I always fix them. So that's what I just did right there, okay? What happened there was that was a minimum bet, which is what I tend to have fixed at the top of each shoe to start things off. 25 is the minimum. 25. It's 25 pounds here, but I think you've all got enough brains to be able to say, okay, well, it would work the same in dollars. So just give me that, will you? I'm in pound land, so I use pound signs when I forget to change the default, and that's what I did this time. I actually prefer pounds anyway because they're worth more money. So there. Anyway, that's fixed. Okay, so there was a 225, and then the next bet was due to be 400. Didn't do anything, and then finally we ended up just fine. And on we go down these things, and the same applies each time. Didn't hear, so I've got to fix that. Yeah, and I think it'd be a fair question to say, well, why don't you just make sure there are no mistakes before you put this thing online? But I kind of think that it's a little bit kind of reassuring to people looking at this stuff to see that I do make mistakes. I do admit them. I don't try to hide them. I always find them in the end, and that's the name of that tune. And of course, I could never guarantee, however hard I tried to make sure that everything was free of mistakes, I couldn't possibly guarantee that at the end of the day, it's going to be completely error-free. So I'm doing my best, and for most people, I think that's enough. For those of you who set higher standards, then fuck you is all I can say. Anyway, here we go. This is shoe number 1, as you can see, very clearly indicated there. Let's just dance around the information that's here. These are the bets which are automatically calculated by the algorithm, except when I make a stupid mistake and leave a formula out of a given cell. So what we're seeing here is we're seeing that player made 4,175. Banker made 5,550. Banker had to pay a commission of 1,266. So that left Banker with what, 100 more than player on this particular thing. And there's a little trick at work in here, which I'll tell you about a bit later on. But anyway, everything is pretty much explained here, I think. This is net for player. 11 okay, 6.9 average exposure was 3,750. The very last was 250, which means there's a rollover. All of this is straight out of the BNB simulation thing. I have no control over any of this stuff. I will be putting together a values only copy of this worksheet, which I will make available to anybody who asks for it nicely. I won't be giving away any formulas or anything like that, but I'll certainly be happy to let people go line by line through this thing. The next one down is obviously second shoe. Player made 2,400, banker made 3,100, but 26.74 net of commission. And please, if you find yourself wanting to say, yeah, but I don't play commission baccarat, I play the one where if I bet on banker and banker wins with a 3-card 7, then it's a push. Well, I promise you, mathematically, provably, that's a worse deal than 5% commission. So what I'm doing here is I'm showing you a best case scenario, which is the traditional 5% commission, a much better option than that absolute nonsense that the casinos have come up with just so that they can tell you that there's no commission in a game. It is bullshit. But so much that the casinos put out is bullshit. It's what they're about. And most people are dumb enough to suck it all up. But they have that right. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But anyway, this time player did better. And here we've got now at round 2, we've got player is at 6,575 net, a 14.5% win of its action. And banker is at 6,958, so a little bit more, but higher action, so only 11.3%. And these numbers here really matter. If you're going to be impressed by somebody like, for instance, John Sirasani, the best blackjack player who ever played in his own mind, you will see him sometimes winning 3,000, 4,000 at the end of a session, but his churn, his action, can be 200,000 in the same session. So that's crap. That's 2%, And he only won because he won more bets than he lost. He didn't win because he was clever. He didn't win because he used arithmetic, he used science, he used numeracy or whatever to choose what his bets would be. He's all over the place. He's a typical shill. He is a guy who is there to convince people, you out there, that the way to bet these games is like an ass, like a complete idiot. And he certainly is that. So anyway, banker action is higher, as you can see here. The gross win for the bank was definitely better. Was 14.1% of total action or churn, but by the time the commission was paid, that knocked it down. So next one, number 3. So what are we looking at? 4,800 win for player, no commission due, obviously. 2,575, knocked down to 1,910 for the bank. So the bank was behind there, and you're starting to see a little bit of a change in the situation here. Sorry, every so often I have to interrupt myself with a little swig of water, otherwise I have a nasty. So what do we say? 11,375 net win for player. The bank has now been knocked down to 8,900. 10.2% of total action. Player is at 20% of total action right now. That ain't going to last very long. That was a lucky one, I think. Player was 43 to 25. Next one. All right. Where are we? 13,850 net for player. 12,515 net for banker. Banker's action is actually lower now than players because player had a shit time, 28 to 45. So this one was a really tough one. So that's sort of like switched the roles a bit there. So player is on this shoe at the end of number 4, 11.3% of total action. That's his win percentage, and banker net is 12.1% win percentage. And remember, that's not a great thing for banker. That's not a great advertisement for banker. What it is it's a great advertisement. It's a proof for pattern betting, because you've got all these people out there who sort of say progressive betting is too dangerous, it's too expensive, it's too hard, it's too whatever. And the truth of the matter is that if you don't have ammunition, you can't expect to win a war, to win a battle, to win a skirmish, to win anything. You must have money behind you. You must have belief in what you're doing. And you must have a strategy to have belief in. That's the key, you know? This little thing here, by the way, where it says gag, 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 gag in light lettering there, that's simply reminding me and you and everybody else that there is a rule in pattern betting where at a certain point you say, okay, that's it, I'm out. This is just too shitty. I'm going to go somewhere else and resume with the same down, which is the amount that you're in the hole. That's your win target, if you like, and you're out, which is the value of your next bet, right? So you go somewhere else. You just go. And that's not saying, it's not arguing, as some people have suggested to me, oh, well, you're saying that it's going to be better if you go somewhere else. Not necessarily. All I know is it's not going to be the same, you know. And we don't know that's what's coming up is a bloody load of bloody horse manure, but it might be. And what you have to do is you have to take steps to protect yourself when you're playing these games, because volatility is horrendous, you know. So, you know, you just got to be sensible. That's the key. Anyway, down to the next one. Shoe number 5. Okay, and all of these shoes, all of this stuff here, it can all be found online. You can check me. You can, you know, a good friend of mine in California says that he showed a couple of his pals some recent stuff that I put up, and they said, "Well, now obviously he's rigging that. He's fixing it. He's not, you know." Because these games can't be beaten, therefore this must be crooked. That is such naive nonsense, but it is so common, so I don't blame them. You know, basically they are just believing what is out there. You know, it's kind of like the people who voted for He Who Shall Be Nameless, you know. They thought to themselves, well, nobody would say something like that if it wasn't true, so they voted for him. And for me, it's a reverse situation. They're sort of saying, well, that can't be true, so we're not going to pay any attention to him. And that's, you know, that's what goes with the territory for me. Like I say, I've been online 30 years this year. So what's next? The last one, the last shoe. Okay. And at the end of the session, we end up with player net win 21,175, which is 3,529 per shoe. There were 6 shoes, right? Banker is 18,090.
This is
18,090, which is 3,015 per shoe. And that's a good clue for me to go back to the top and just point something out to you. All right. Now, what I'm always saying in my demos is that if the strategy tells you that you must now bet on Banker and you come to a turnaround bet, make sure that your turnaround bet is increased to cover the commission. You know there's going to be commission. You've got to make sure that you get that you get it covered. Don't do what those idiots in the Vegas Mat team do all the time and say, okay, well, now we got commission to recover. It's 250. So then they put 250 on the table, they lose it, and all of a sudden they're in the thousands again because they're chasing commission separately from the original bet, which was a winner. So, you know, if they'd just used their noodles, as I used to say to my grandchildren while they were little, I can't say it anymore, you know, if they just used their noodles, they'd think, well, okay, maybe the best thing to do is to make sure that we include the commission in the bet. So, you know, that's what you do. Now, this com offset up here is really pretty cunning, really. It basically, the number there, 1.2, okay, let's say we change that to 1, which means that there's no offset, right? And what you'll see now is a change in the banker result. The total result, it drops down to 8,000, whatever the hell that is, 160, okay? Now, if you go 1.05, which is the offset, right, that adds a couple of thousand right there. So, you know, you're starting to, and the reason this is working this way is because this is built into all of these columns here. The bet columns all respond to this number up here, not on the player side because there's no commission problem over there, but for bankers, it's very much an issue. Okay, so now let's say 1.1. and you'll start to see the offset, the net result increase, right? 1.2. And now you're up to 18,000 and something or other. And it's just common sense, folks, really. It's just common sense. 1.25. And there you go. Now banker has overtaken player. Just a little bit. All right. So when you come to a turnaround bet, like down here, for instance, okay, you won 800 here. That triggered this bet here, which is, it's supposed to be a turnaround bet in response to that win. All right. So you look at your 2,225, which is your down. That's what you owe, right? That's what you're in the shit for. Okay. And you want to get that back plus a commission offset, right? So the bet then becomes 2,900, right? And obviously in real play, you'll be rounding things up as necessary. So you would make this bet not 2,900, but 3,000, right? But I'm not going to mess with that, because as soon as I start doing that, then somebody starts complaining that I'm fixing it or rigging it. And that's the best that non-thinkers can do. They suck up the casino bullshit, the casino smoke and mirrors, the casino disinformation, misinformation, and downright lies, because it suits them. Because most gamblers don't expect to win. And in many cases, and believe me, I know what I'm talking about, because I lived in Nevada for nearly 30 years, and I played blackjack in Nevada for nearly 40 years. So, most gamblers not only expect to lose, but want to lose. Because as soon as they start winning, they get daft and it's gone again. The money's gone again. So they want to lose. I'm sorry, but that is a fact. Now, with the offset built in here, okay, 1.25, banker makes 9.9% on his total action. Player, meanwhile, is 14.3% because his total action is a lot less. So, the information that's in here, it's up to you whether you believe it or not. I don't really give a shit, What I'm doing with every one of these demos that I put up is I'm giving you real information. I'm not crooking anything. I'm not faking anything. Every session that I play is recorded. I don't get to put every single one online because I can't keep up with myself. I tend to have a 2-shoe at least session of baccarat every day and a 2-shoe session of blackjack every day. And then I have some baccarat sessions which get so nasty that I have to run away to blackjack to mop them up, to turn them around, because the max bet for Baccarat Win Pro, which is the program that I use for my baccarat demos, the max bet on that is 50,000, and on blackjack, yeah, a little bit of a hiccup there. Sorry about that. You probably didn't even notice it, but no, the screen recorder that I use is by an outfit called Movavi, and I try and remember from time to time to give them a shout out because it really is bloody brilliant, but it needs a computer which is better than the one that I've got right now. And I have a new one that's been waiting sort of by my desk for months, 5 times as fast, brand new, etc., etc. But making the transition to it is something that's a little bit beyond my, I can do math, I can do pattern betting and all the rest of it. All of the programs that I use, I'm pretty good with. But when it comes to hardware, I'm a total twit. So that's how it is. Anyway, the offset up there is the key. And that is that what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, people, add 25%, typically, And this is read by all of the bet formulas in this column AB. And so that's what the difference is all about. And it's worth doing. It really is stupid to go the Vegas Matt way and say, okay, well, now we need to recover the commission because it's just stupid. But, stupid is what they do. It's their job. This is what people, I think, do not understand. These shills, these guys are not your friends. They work for the casinos. That's the up and down of it. Anyway, let's go and have a look at some more nitty-gritty. All right, now here we go. Gross win for banker. That is with the offset that I mentioned before. Okay. 27,425. Commission payable, 6,060. That's a lot, you know. The net banker win, because of the offset that I put in there, okay, is 21,365, and it's 10% of total banker action, which is right there, right? Player wins 21,175, no commission payable, no penalty, okay? Less action, 147,775, 14.3%. Therefore, bankers risk exposure 8,750, right? Players 5,100. So banker gets a 245% return on risk, or a 2.45 to 1 if you prefer, and player gets a 415% or 4 to 1 return. And this is reality, folks. Honestly, and like when my friend in California said to me that his buddies thought that I must be crooking it, I sort of like, why would anybody do that? Where is the sense in doing that? I mean, years ago, I worked very briefly for a bunch of guys who were peddling a really suspect fuel additive, which they were trying to convince the state of California would save the state millions by improving the gas mileage of all their vehicles. And they were providing the state with crap information. And I was trying to explain to these guys, look, you got to understand, if you get the state of California to buy this, and then they do their own tests, and they find out that the product is shit, which it is, then you could be had up on criminal charges, never mind civil lawsuits and all kinds of problems. And they just kind of shrugged and said, well, I mean, it's a good product. No, it's not. And the very least you've got to do is you've got to go to the state of California and say to them, hey, guys, we ran these tests on buses, on God knows what, you name it. And we got these results, and they are independent of us. It was done by a scientific operation which is recommended by the state of California. They wouldn't do any of that stuff because they didn't understand that, you'll very quickly be found out if you're a liar. That's really the lesson that I'm trying to give you. Anyway, let's just go back down through these things. And I appreciate you sticking with me, but you know what? It is a hard slog. There is no sense in me cheating. Why would I do? I'm not selling anything. What I am trying to do is make a dent in casino profits, which are undeserved. They're greedy bastards, and they will screw us any way they can. And if I can make a dent in their bottom line, even if it's only to a few dozen people, suddenly persuaded, okay, this is how we got to do it from now on, that's good enough for me. And I've had the same attitude for 30 years, I promise you. Now, there's the next one. There's the next one. And there's the last one. And, this is not shit. This is the real thing. But it's hard. It is hard to get people to believe me, largely because the casino machine is so efficient and it's been running for so long. There is that old saying, any amount bet against a negative expectation must have a negative result. What they don't tell you is that only applies to flat or fixed betting, a la Sirasani or whatever, or random betting, also a la Sirasani, Vegas Matt, and others, where they suddenly increase the bet for no reason other than they've got the money, they're getting fed up, they're going to throw it on the table and hope for the best. The sort of like, what's it called? The shit and hope. There's an expression they use in Nevada about that, but I don't remember what it is. But, you see so many people in the casinos destroying themselves because they don't think. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're up against. They're just not capable giving the house a fair run. And like I've said many times in my demos, if you can't put up a fight, don't step into the ring. There's no sense in it, because opposite you at the table that you've chosen is the dealer's tray, which has anywhere between 150 and half a million, 150,000 and half a million in it, depending on where you are. And you really think that you can knock a dent in that with 10 grand or 20 grand or even 50 grand? You won't. You'll see Jason Bulkey, Mr. Handpay, put out 30,000, 50,000 sometimes, and it doesn't do it. It's not enough, because he bets randomly, he bets stupidly, he spreads out to multiple hands. That's dumb right there, but you can't do that at baccarat, at least. So that's it, folks. And I'm sure that I could edit this so that it's much shorter and faster and all the rest of it, but I can't bloody well be bothered, because most people aren't listening anyway. So, and I'm not complaining. That's how it's been for 30 years. I just keep doing this. I keep getting better at it. And eventually I'm going to break through. I know that.